Identity politics. That's exactly what it is. In China, it started with class.
Yes.
And they divide the whole population into two classes, red class and a black class. Red, the correct class, and black is the incorrect class. Those are the property owners, landlords, or people with bourgeois worldview. They're all black class. So they are the enemy of the state. We all look alike, right? But that's how China was divided by Mao. And I'm talking about identity. It's not something, you say, oh, okay, I'm black class. No, you are black class, and that is your identity, and that is required in every government document. Just like here, race. You have to fill out what your race is. There, you have to fill out what your class is. And then you pass it down to your children and your children's children, and you will forever be the enemy of the state. And here, we still have class. Bernie Sanders still talk about 1% versus 99%.
Yes.
But race is the most potent way to divide America. And that's just exactly the same thing that happened in China.
Maybe the other similarity is that the people who are screaming about privilege themselves have the most privilege, right? I mean, so the people leading the struggle sections were obviously more privileged than the people being interrogated, correct?
It's in the revolution. Most of the revolution, you can see who started. It's usually the elite.
Yes.
Mao was from a rich family.
Yes.
Yeah, all his comrades are from rich family. Only people from rich family had the time to entertain how to start a revolution. Exactly the same. And then they turned the people against the other elite. And that is always the case because they want people to fight against each other, and that's how they control them. During the Cultural Revolution, in the very beginning, that was those in power that was taken down by the Red Guards. They were struggled against in the so-called struggle session. That was brutal. Some of them were killed right there in a public trial. But everyone have to go through the gentler form of struggle session. And that's called criticism and self-criticism. So as kids, we will have that kind of a struggle session every week. And we will sit together, and after referring some of the Mao's quotes, and we will criticize self. Usually start with yourself. And you would say, and I did this and that, not quite up to the requirement by Mao's instruction. And I still have this bourgeois influence in me. And then everyone will join and say, yes, you're right. You did this and this that day. You said this and this that day. And then we go around. So we struggle against others and we against ourselves. So to get rid of every little incorrect thoughts from our mind.
So it was young people aiming their rage at the behest and the direction of the central government of Mao against not foreigners who threatened China, but against Chinese, against your own people.
Yes. And it is difficult even for me to understand. And it took me a long time to understand what that Cultural Revolution was about. It is a revolution that Mao launched against CCP, against his own party, against his own government. Why? Because he thought he was losing influence. He thought he was no longer had absolute power. So it's really a power struggle. And this time, he did not use the armies. He did not have to. He had tens of millions of young people that he had indoctrinated in the government school for the past 17 years. They're ready to go. Just give them a call, say, you are now mobilized to defend Mao and to defend communism. And that's what how they got the kids all involved. Very familiar to Americans now. They dismantled the criminal justice system. No police.
Really?
Just like a defunct police. So the Red Guards could do anything. There are no consequences. And eventually they start to kill their teachers, kill their principals, and they kill millions of people.
Did anybody say anything about it?
Nobody can say anything, just like here. Why? Because Mao openly supported them. And Mao had 8 rallies to meet Red Guards in Tiananmen Square, 8 times, to declare that he was their Red Commander-in-Chief. And those are his little Red Guards.
So there's no dissent at all, and things just get progressively crazier and crazier and crazier. Did people think that this was going to stop?
No one knows. And I remember that it was somewhat peaceful because all they did was destroy the past. In Mao's words, it's the 4 olds: old ideas, old culture, old custom, and old habits. Get rid of them all. That include destroy all the statues. The statues mostly Buddhist statues, Christian statues. Everything has to come down. And everything that is old has to be destroyed. So when they finish with the public spaces, they went to people's homes. And I witnessed the Red Guards went to people's homes, took everything they thought was old. Old is bad. Old is something that need to be get rid of, including furniture, people's old photos, and everything. Because the goal is to get rid of the past so we can replace it with the pure Maoism.
湛蓝大海包围的太平洋岛国吉里巴斯虽拥绝美海景，却也是世界上最贫穷的国家之一。2019年弃台投共后，中国警察趁虚而入。
Chinese police working with local authorities in Kiribati through a joint policing deal was not formally announced.
就像中国警察与所罗门群岛警方培训合作，根据路透社报道，中国警察去年悄悄进驻吉里巴斯，参与社区警务和犯罪资料库计划。
中方始终在平等相待、相互尊重、合作共赢和开放包容的基础上，同有关国家开展合作。
中方官僚回应，但是否美中插旗抢南太平洋，美方警报大作。
Kiribati is a strategically important country. Despite being small, it's Hawaii's closest neighbor, controls a large exclusive economic zone.
吉里巴斯就夹在美国和澳洲之间，距离夏威夷，也就是美军印太司令部基地，只有3000公里。如今中国警察出现在吉里巴斯，直逼美国后花园。尽管还没正式建立警察局，但美方26号严正警告，中国安全援助不仅没帮助，还会加剧区域冲突，喊话太平洋岛国别接受，更有新动作。
The first time in almost a decade for Kiribati police to go on patrol with U.S. Coast Guard members.
美吉两国警方首度联合海巡，还锁定2艘中国渔船执法，防范非法捕鱼，同时侦查中国一举一动，不让赤色势力扩张，染红南太平洋。
So the Hollywood takeover film contends this is communist indoctrination of our minds. What you've described is just trying to maybe get people to like China. So how is it influencing our thinking?
Here in the West, right, we think of war as either you're in a war militarily or you're not. But China has the idea of unrestricted warfare or total warfare where everything can be an aspect of war. So we delve into the internal documents of China. Even back when Mao Zedong, he's the one that put China under communism, he had this secret speech in 1942 that talks about revolutionizing literature and art to serve the purpose of the party and to really stamp out their enemy, which is the free world, or in this case, the US. Since Mao Zedong, the very beginning of the Communist Party, art serves the cause of the party, and it's part of their military. So even in an internal PLA, that's People's Liberation Army China's military, their handbook, it talks about how the battle for mind control happens on a smokeless battlefield. That could sound like lasers or drones, but it's really through every aspect. Like you also have that in the education system with, say, the Confucius Institutes, where Beijing, Communist China, picks the teachers and they don't teach you about Tiananmen, they don't teach you about Tibet, you can't talk about Taiwan. And so it's really bleeding into every aspect. Right now we have this huge debate over TikTok, whose parent company, ByteDance, is Chinese and has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And you see all these different aspects, whether it's in the films or with TikTok or even in our classroom, where it's changing the way we see and perceive the world, and they create divisiveness online. But these are accounts that look American, but they're not. 100% of the news about the US on TikTok was negative. Anything that talks about the US is negative. And so you have 1/3 of young Americans who get their news from TikTok. Even in the classroom, right, with, say, cancel culture, the woke culture, where kids are taught to, if you're white, then you're an oppressor. If you're religious, you're also an oppressor. All these different things where you're taught to hate the country.